It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
You're like A Beautiful Mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So
This isn't Self-Esteem Weekly. This is a reality check.
Craig, shut up. It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Alan Cerny returns for our annual Oscar Picks podcast. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Craig Price, and this week, before we dive into the podcast with Alan Cerny, I just want to remind you that you can find Alan's film reviews at comingsoon.net. He's a fantastic writer and one of the most positive reviewers on the internet, and if you've seen the internet recently, it's quite a feat to be positive in any capacity. Do not go to comment section. Do not go to comment section. Anyways, we're going to cover the 4 major acting awards today, Director and Best Picture, and as always, I will post all of my picks for all 24 awards on the website, realitycheckpodcast.com, and you can see how badly I do, usually about 50%, when the Oscars are shown this Sunday, March 4th. So on with the show! It's that time of year again. Oscar season is upon us. Alan Cerny from comingsoon.net, our resident film critic, is here to go blow by blow. Also, Alan is my co-host at Matinee Heroes, and if you haven't started listening to that podcast, I encourage you greatly to go listen to that, where we talk about heroic cinema and heroes in cinema and lessons you can learn from heroes. So, Alan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing this morning?
So far, so good. And what did you think of this movie year?
I thought it was pretty great. There are some films that I saw that I would have liked to have seen get more recognition, but as a whole, I think it was an interesting response to the politics of the past 2 years, and the films that kind of came out of that were really fascinating, and some really good stuff came out. I'm really pleased to. I mean, I have favorites this year, but I say this every year, and I still stand by it. I don't really like the idea of appreciation of ranking art. I don't really care for it too much. But when it comes to making statements, like even like political statements or just statements in general about where we are, I like the Oscars for that. But as it comes to deciding which is the quote-unquote best film or best actor, best actress, I'm not the keenest person on that. But I do love the talk. I love talking about movies. So I mean, it welcomes the opportunity all the time to talk about movies. So I'm fine with that part of it.
Well, that's why they switched from the winner is to the Oscar goes to. So there really isn't a winner. The winner is the nominees, and then which even then sometimes are snubs.
Right. But I mean, I think it was a really strong year. I'm really pleased with a lot of the stuff. There were some surprises that I don't think anybody at the beginning of last year would have seen coming. And I like that different genres are getting recognized now. I love the performances that we've seen so far. I think it was a pretty strong year for movies, and especially towards the latter half. Although it really started February with Get Out, it started really early, and then this just really good throughout the entire year. I just thought it was a really interesting year. I thought it was a more interesting year this year than last year. Last year felt like it was a response to the Oscars so white of the year before, but this year feels like these movies genuinely are a part of the conversation. Last year, some of those films felt like they were pigeonholed just to be there, but I don't feel that way this year. I think all the films, with the exception of maybe one, which I probably wouldn't have nominated, we'll get to that. But I feel like all the films are strong contenders for Best Picture this year, and actor and actress.
Well, let's get right into it. Supporting actor, we have Willem Dafoe, The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, Richard Jenkins, The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer, All the Money in the World, and Sam Rockwell, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Now, some might think that having Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson in the same movie, in the same category, may split the vote, but that hasn't seemed to be the case, as Sam Rockwell has been winning quite a few things in other award shows like the SAG and the Golden Globes and things like that. So who do you think should win this?
My favorite of this nomination is Willem Dafoe. I think he should win. I think he still might win. He's kind of getting... I don't really keep up with it as much as I used to, but I do think that he's getting a little more of a surge in last-minute voting, maybe, because I think voting is still going. I'm not quite sure. It may have ended like this weekend, but I think today might be the last day. But I really, really loved Willem Dafoe's performance in that movie. It was just watching him, just the scene between him and the creepy old dude coming to the playground. Is an all-timer for me. I loved watching that scene, and I loved watching his performance. And he's a really great actor. He's played so many different roles all throughout his career. But, people, when they think of Willem Dafoe, they kind of think of, gosh, he's kind of creepy. He's kind of a bad guy. But he hasn't just played bad guys. He's played all sorts of different parts. And this guy is a genuinely nice guy.
Oh, it's fantastic. I really appreciated seeing Willem Dafoe, because that's kind of my thing, is I get kind of... I feel guilty for a lot of great actors who get pigeonholed. And you see them in a lot of stuff. Like, actually, Kevin Spacey was a kind of an actor who was pigeonholed early on in his career as a villain. Right. And then you're like, well, let's see him as something else. And Willem Dafoe was like that. I feel like there's actors like Jamie Sheridan, who is an actor from the 90s who was really good and then kind of disappeared. And then you see him every once in a while, like in Spotlight. But he's someone like you wish he had a bigger career, maybe playing a little bit more heroic roles, instead of being a character actor. Willem Dafoe is that guy. He's been fantastic in pretty much everything he's ever done.
Here's an interesting thing to me, because I know he's fairly method as an actor. I can sort of believe Sam Rockwell as a cop, but I definitely can believe that Willem Dafoe can install a freezer. I get the idea that when he worked on this movie, it's like, well, let me take 4 weeks and figure out how to, fix a plumbing main or paint the side of a building or fix a washing machine. I get the idea that he can actually do these things, and that's part of his job as the manager of the hotel that the film takes place at. But I actually think that this is the kind of guy who probably went for 2 months undercover at a hotel in the Florida area, just doing shit. Yeah,
well, he is a really nice guy in this movie, which is in seeing him interact with the kids. And I have to admit, the kids were irritating. The movie it's a good movie of showing the true poverty of the area, where you've got this little hotel which is being paid by the week, and all the residents are kind of struggling to survive, and yet everything around them.
You have to look at the film through non-judgmental eyes, and it can be hard because these are people that are broken in essential ways. The main character's mother cannot be a mother. She's not good at it. And that kid is affected. Their whole life is wrapped up in capitalism, and their self-worth is all wrapped up in money and this tourism business that's kind of an infection, and we don't even get to see the parks until the very, very end, but everything that's surrounding them is just full of vitriol. There's another film that kind of touches this subject that was actually shot on the sly in Disney World called Escape from Tomorrow, which is really good. And those two movies, if that's a double feature, that's a double feature right there.
Different podcast.
Yeah,
as kind of for Matinee Hero listeners, that's one of our staples, as we always do a double feature. And
yeah,
I think that you're right, because they snuck in to do the last segment on an iPhone for this movie for the Florida project. Now, you have a real sentiment for Richard Jenkins, though, too.
Richard Jenkins is really great. He's my favorite thing in that movie, actually, to be honest with you. The Shape of Water is a film where we can probably get into it later more, maybe, but as a huge, gigantic fan of Guillermo del Toro, The Shape of Water is not his strongest film. I've seen movies that he's made that are much better to me, I really love more than The Shape of Water. And I'm not sure if it's me or the film I just couldn't connect with. There are a lot of great things in it, but Richard Jenkins is the best thing in it. And there's things that he does with that character that are just so kind of beautiful, and the shot of the fleeting shot of the refrigerator with all the pies in it. I dig stuff like that. And he's just kind of a sweet person in that film who kind of gets this goal, this thing to do that gives him purpose, and I love that about the movie, and I love that about his performance. To me, I mean, and I'm not shagging any of the other great performances that are in that film, because there are some great ones. Sally Hawkins is great, Octavia Spencer is great, but Richard Jenkins was my favorite thing in that film.
So who do you think's going to win?
Right now, I think it's neck and neck between Sam Rockwell and Willem Dafoe. And I love Sam Rockwell in 3 Billboards, but I've loved him so long for so many movies that he's done that I've always thought that he should have been nominated for. I don't know why he didn't get a Best Actor nomination for Moon. But that's kind of if he wins this award, that's kind of where I'm coming at it. I'd be absolutely fine with him winning this award, because that performance is really strong. He is really quite good at it.
Yeah, it's not his fault that the character arc on that is a little disturbing.
Well, it's realistic, you know. We see redemption in our movies, but we rarely get the redemption in real life. And I think this is a movie that's kind of taken a page from real life. You can get the best redemption that you can. You know, sometimes you do things that are just horrible. You're a horrible person, and this movie is about taking the baby steps to being a better person. Although we can't quite be sure those baby steps are in the right direction at the end of the movie. Yeah. It's a really strong performance by him. I love the way that he works with Frances McDormand, which is probably why Woody Harrelson got nominated here too. There's a scene between Woody Harrelson and Frances McDormand in the when he's questioning her at the jail cell, or not the jail cell, but he's questioning her at the police station, and that scene's an all-timer between the two of them, where they neither one of them give an inch, but they still care for each other very, very much. And that scene in particular was really, really rough for me to watch, because I kind of understood it from a standpoint of knowing what cancer can do to people. But it's really quite good. And both of those performances are very, very strong. Someday Woody Harrelson will get that Oscar, I think. I don't think it'll be for this, though. It'll be for, I mean, if anything, I think it's going to be a really hard toss-up between Sam Rockwell and Willem Dafoe. And I think Willem Dafoe may well win it. I mean, it's probably going to be Sam, but it could be Willem. It's a tough call on that. I don't think Christopher Plummer, for all the money in the world's got a shot.
He's already won. He won recently, a couple years ago, and that's kind of a lifetime achievement award. And so there's not going to be a need to do this. I think this was more of a statement.
It was a statement. It was a statement for what had happened through the year. But I mean, I have this one of the 2 films I haven't seen here.
What's the other one?
I hear. The other one's Mudbound. I didn't get to see Mudbound.
Oh, I can't believe I am one up on you. I've seen all of the movies except All the Money in the World, because I can't seem to. It's not anywhere. It's not in theaters. It's not on DVD. But I saw Mudbound on Netflix.
Yeah, I know it's there. I just hadn't got to it. So, and I know it's beautifully shot. I hear the cinematography is amazing, and the woman who shot Mudbound also shot Black Panther. So that's one I'm going to get to. But All the Money in the World, I didn't get to see that one. It did kind of come and go. I would have liked to have seen it, because I like Ridley Scott, I like Christopher Plummer, I even like Mark Wahlberg. And I hear it's a strong performance. I just don't think it's going to win here. I think that they nominated him for a specific reason, and while I believe that reason is a very good reason, it's probably not enough to win the award.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to supporting actress, and right off the bat is Mary J. Blige for the unseen Mudbound. Allison Janney for Lesley Manville for Phantom Thread, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, and Octavia Spencer for The Shape of Water. Now, for me, having seen Mudbound, I don't really know why Mary J. Blige was nominated. She didn't do a bad job at all, obviously. She doesn't even have like a real big monologue or a big. There's nothing that has her stick out for me. She did a great job for her part, but her part wasn't very big, and it didn't really stand out. So I'm not sure why she was nominated, but good for her. And I'll also say the same thing about Octavia Spencer. I love Octavia Spencer. I think she is, not only is she very talented and an amazing dramatic actress, but if you've ever seen, what was the Dinner with the Jerks or Dinner with the...
Oh, yeah. I know what movie you're talking about.
Yeah, the one with Steve Carell where she plays the lobster lady. She's hilarious in that. She can do anything. I just didn't see her that amazing in The Shape of Water.
I liked her a lot in Hidden Figures, too.
She was like I said, she can do anything. And I think she deserves the Hidden Figures. But in Shape of Water, again, I thought she did a great job. I just don't know why she was nominated because I didn't think it was a standout role.
So this one's between two moms, really. Allison, Janney, and Tonya, and Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, and it's whether or not you want the mother from hell or the slightly better mother. She's actually not the mother from hell in Lady Bird, but I mean, briefly though, I do want to talk about Lesley, Manville, and Phantom Thread because that movie's amazing. That movie is really great, and that's of all the nominees this year, other than maybe Get Out, that's the film that I think is going to grow over time. People are going to look at it. Maybe Call Me by Your Name. That's the film that's going to grow in time, and people are going to come to really appreciate what Paul Thomas Anderson did in that movie. But her performance is astoundingly great, and the performances of the women in that film hold their own to Daniel Day fucking Lewis. That's pretty great. In fact, I think his performance is so good because he steps aside. He lets the other great actresses do their thing, and I think that just boost his performance better. I mean, excuse me. I mean, Vicky Creeps should have been Creeps. I can never pronounce her name probably right.
I don't think it's Creeps.
Yeah, she should have been nominated for Best Actress this year, flat out. But I mean, the Best Actress is so stacked. Who would you replace?
So Lesley Manville, for people who are unaware, she is the sister, correct?
Yes, she's the sister, and she keeps Daniel Day-Lewis's character in line in her way. She allows him to have this illusion that he's in charge, but he's not in charge. She's in charge. She's
the brains behind the talent. He's extremely talented and can do everything as far as making these amazing costumes and dresses, but she is the brains behind the business.
Yeah, I mean, if Daniel Day-Lewis was the herd of cows, that she is the lead cowboy cattle driver. You know, she moves those cows in the direction she wants them to go.
Yeah, he's the sheep and she's Babe.
Yeah, well, she can indulge. She allows Daniel Day-Lewis's character to indulge in what he indulges in because he's got this idiotic fantasy that as a quote-unquote genius, he has to have his idiosyncrasies and he has to have his way about things. And she allows him to think that for a while. And she's really great in it. I just the very things that she says to him just to rein him in and steer him are really great. And her performance is wonderful. I think that performance is really great. But I think if I was going to pick my favorite performance of the supporting actresses, it would be Laurie Metcalf of Lady Bird because I adore that movie.
And I adore her. I think Laurie Metcalf is an amazing actress. It's hard to believe this is only her second or third movie. She doesn't do movies. I was listening to an interview with her with Mark Maron on WTF, and she's not used to any of this campaigning for Oscars. And in fact, they assigned people to her, so she's not really. It's not like she's all excited and she wants to do this stuff. The studio assigned a person, so she starts doing all these interviews and all the press junkets, and she's really only done 2 movies, really.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think it's a really harder role to play than it looks to be on screen. People would say, well, she's just playing a difficult mother. But you're not understanding that this movie is entirely from the point of view of Lady Bird. And so what you see in the film isn't necessarily the truth as you know it. And Laurie Metcalf kind of navigates that role really well that way. I think it's a really strong performance. And I think that, I mean, what I would choose for Oscar moments aren't necessarily what they pick when they show the clips on screen. And of course, her Oscar moment to me would be that drive away from the airport, and just her face as it reacts to the as it sets in that she's losing her daughter, and that moment is really, really great. She's my favorite performance of this, but it's probably going to be Allison Janney who wins. And you know what? I have no problem with that. Allison Janney is incredible in Tonya. She is a human monster. I mean, there's nothing redeemable about her in that film. You get to see a little flicker behind the eyes of guilt as she torments Margot Robbie's Tonya Harding through that film, but not much. She's a pretty evil person in that film.
And the one time that you start to see some compassion, or maybe even some sympathy, it's her being manipulative.
Yeah, you see that little tiny compassion in her, but you also see her visibly kill it, like she's taking a chicken to slaughter, you know. And yeah, she's really great in that movie. I think she's just one of our best actresses, period, right now. I love Mom. I love watching that show. I hate the guy who produces it because he produces the worst show on television, which is The Big Bang Theory, and there will be no debate on this subject.
Which is where Laurie Metcalf is she's a returning character. She's Sheldon's mom. So you've got two sitcom moms.
Yeah, but it's still the worst show on television. But
you don't watch it, so you can't say that.
I can say that. No. It is.
Yeah. When was the last time you saw it?
I've watched about 3 episodes, and I couldn't stomach it anymore.
Like 10 years ago when it started?
Maybe, but I'm not going to watch it now because it's step and fetch it for nerds.
It's not anymore. It might have been that when it started, but it's definitely not that anymore. Anyways.
But it's a horrible show, and it should be burned to the ground. Anyway, but I love Mom, and Mom is really funny, and she's really great in the show, and she's great in Tonya. She deserves to win this award, hands down, I think. My favorite personal is Laurie Metcalf, but you give it out to Allison Janney. She's just incredible, and she's been incredible ever since we first saw her in The West Wing. She's one of my favorite actresses. Whenever she's in a movie, I perk up because I know something interesting is about to happen, and she's just that kind of actress, and I love her to death.
Even when she's a catatonic mom in American Beauty, she's still bringing something that it's just you don't know what it is. You don't know what to expect, and she's just fantastic. So I really do think it is literally a coin toss between Metcalf and Janney, and I agree Janney's probably going to win that because it seems like all indications are, and her body of work, she probably deserves something at this point, right?
I think so. Body of work is always a difficult award to give because that's very subjective, but she's been such a strong actress for so long. However, as performances go, I mean, maybe the quote unquote best performance of this stack might be Lesley Manville's, because it's a little more subtle. But Allison Janney's just incredible to watch in this, and she commands the screen whenever you see her. It's hard not to. Again, this is the whole quantifying of art, and I've never been a fan of that. But if you're going to go through performance-wise, the stuff that Janney does in this movie is incredible, and I have no problem with Tonya winning this.
Let's move on to lead actor. And then we have Timothée Chalamet, Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis, Phantom Thread. I'm going to mess this one up. Daniel Kaluuya? Kaluuya for Get Out. Gary Oldman for The Darkest Hour. And Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel Esquire, which I just saw the other night.
And let's kick that one to the curb right away because that movie's bad.
The movie is awful. He's really good in it. It's not your normal...
Good. But I that's not the performance I would have nominated this year.
Oh no. I just don't. I'm not sure why it was nominated, but he did a really great job in it. It's definitely not the normal Denzel character. He actually was really getting involved in a character in a different way that you're not used to seeing Denzel. I thought he did a really good job, but the movie's awful.
Yeah, and I would have kicked him out for Robert Pattinson in Good Time. Honestly, Robert Pattinson in Good Time's incredible. That movie is like watching an open wound. It's hard to watch, but it's really, really good, and he's great in it. I think it's a performance. It's a pretty masterful performance, actually. But as Denzel Washington goes, the movie just isn't that good, and I don't want him. I don't think he sleepwalks through the movie, but it is a movie that feels like it. Of all the nominees here, that's the one that's the kind of the Meryl Streep one.
Yeah, that's the weakest of the bunch, definitely.
Yeah, we got to give it to Denzel this year. But Denzel is an incredible actor. I've seen many, many movies of his that I've loved and performances that he should have been nominated for, and I just don't think this one matches. There are other performances this year that were better. Even though he is really good in a bad movie, there are still other performances that are better, and he's not going to win it this year. So let's start from the top, I guess. Timothée Chalamet and Call Me by Your Name, which is a good performance. It's a really good performance. I don't think it kicks into high gear, though, until the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, he's kind of annoying for the first 30 minutes, and then he's definitely pretty good in the middle hour, and then you're right. It does go up a notch the last half hour. It's kind of, and it's not really character evolvement. His character's not evolving that to make the difference between the half hour, half hour. It's just that you kind of, I don't know if you got to get used to him.
I think it's a movie about that first love and figuring out who you are. And it's a movie about, how you deal with loss and love, and I mean it's a movie where, I mean, the final credits are probably where he wins it, if he wins this award this year.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with that.
And
I did have problems with him and Armie Hammer, and it wasn't because it's a gay relationship.
It's the age.
It's not even the age. It's watching Armie Hammer have a relationship with an orangutan because Timothée is basically climbing constantly. It's like watching him wrestle a monkey. He's
a kid.
16. I know, but it's just so awkward.
He has this kid's excitement about this stuff, and I really liked his performance a lot. It's not my favorite in this category, but I really liked his performance a lot. But it's one of those, movies like this, Call Me by Your Name, to me, it's a movie that I really enjoy and feel at the same time feel very uncomfortable with, and it's not because of the gay issues; it's because of the age.
Yeah.
It's and yes, he's 17. I mean, and he's in Europe, of course. It's just a little different, but I don't know. I feel like Armie Hammer is taking advantage of him in a lot of ways. But I mean, there are really great moments of kind of sweeping romance in it. People they make fun of the scene with the peach. Okay, that's kind of the scene that everybody's talking about. It's like, well, that's kind of gross. And but when I saw that scene, I was really, really moved by that scene, because this is unlike a scene like an American Pie where the kid fucks the pie. Okay, that's played for laughs, but this is a guy who is the chemicals in his body are so, his hormones and his emotions and all of that are so overpowering to him. He can't control himself, and he is humiliated by it. He's humiliated by it because the scene where Armie Hammer comes in and kind of plays around a little bit and kind of makes fun a little and says, "Oh, I'll eat the peach" or whatever, and then he just starts to burst into tears because it's like, I'm helpless. I can't control myself. I have these needs and urges and feelings and love, and I don't know where to do with it. And that's a teenager, That's it. And that moment in the movie is the moment to me where I thought where we have two people who very care for each other very much, who love each other very much. But that's where you see the real age difference, because Armie Hammer's older and he's more tempered and understands that these emotions and the feelings that you have are fleeting and they dull over time. But for Timothée Chalamet's character, he's right in the middle of it and he doesn't know what to do with it. And it's incredibly frustrating and upsetting, and he can't handle it. That scene to me is a really powerful moment, and I think that scene is kind of made fun of when it shouldn't be. It's kind of an important moment in that kid's life. And it's really well performed by both of them. So that's another scene in the film that I think people are making fun of and don't really understand the whole context of. Well, and it's Call Me by Your Name is a really good film. It's a little long.
Yeah, we walked into it not knowing a thing, not knowing what it was about, who was in it. It was just that it was nominated. It was one of those movies that didn't get a huge release, and didn't make a huge amount of money, so it wasn't everywhere. You had to actually go search for it here in Northern California, which was unusual. You'd think this would be perfect for, especially I'm in an area that's very diverse and it's got a lot of open-mindedness, and this would be a perfect. You'd think it'd be everywhere. It was very hard to find, and so yeah, it was definitely, like I said, it was awkward. I don't think it was disturbing. I don't think it was. It's just one of those things. If you're not prepared for it, there's a lot of scenes in it, especially with the age difference, where you're just going, "What the hell are we watching?" and trying to figure this out. And it makes perfect sense that awkwardness of teenager is really,
it does.
It's really hammered in.
Yeah, it does. It makes that awkward teenage years really make sense. And it's a strong movie. I have no problem with it being nominated. It's not my favorite film of the year. But it's a strong film, and his performance is really great. I also think that Armie Hammer should have been recognized for supporting actor in some way. I think he was really good in it.
Oh, I thought he was fantastic.
For kind of the years that he's been kind of crapped on.
Yeah. The Lone Ranger really did that to him.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Lone Ranger isn't that bad a movie. They totally miscast Tonto, obviously, but Armie Hammer isn't bad in it at all. He's actually quite good. And he's had those roles where he was going to be the next big thing when he came out of Social Network, and he sort of is, kind of. I mean, I like the smaller roles that he's chosen. Like there's a movie he did called Free Fire, which is really good. He's really fun in it.
He's good with that in the Man from U.N.C.L.E., where he plays the Russian.
That's a good movie too. That movie doesn't get any credit either. Both him and the guy who plays Superman,
Carvel.
Henry Cavill.
Cavill. I'm thinking I was going to call him Harvey Cavill, Carvel, but it's not. So,
but that's a really fun movie too. But as far as lead actor goes, Timothée Chalamet, and also he's young and he'll have more roles, he'll do something that's pretty amazing. I'm sure down the road. I don't think he'll win this, but it is a strong performance. So you come next. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's really down to Daniel Day-Lewis and Gary Oldman. Even though I think everybody in Get Out was fantastic, because to sit there just on a technical level, there's a lot of stone-faced, one tear crying in that movie that is so powerful, and it's not a gimmick. It's just it's the fact that everybody can do it, and everybody's doing such a great job showing all the emotions underneath the catatonia or whatever. It's amazing. Every single actor, from the lead to the lady who played the maid, who ends up being someone else. We've got the
Catherine Keener is great. Bradley Whitford is great.
The guy who plays the gardener, who's constantly running. It's everybody is, as an acting technique, is fantastic in that movie, as far as showing the underneath, the whatever's boiling under the surface.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, my favorite performance of this nomination is Daniel Kaluuya's. It's my favorite one. It's not the best one, best, unquote, best, but it's my favorite one. And if he won, that would be really awesome. I would like that. Because these movies don't get recognized. I'm not even talking about the idea of the racial undertones of Get Out. I'm just talking about Get Out as a horror film. They don't get recognized here. And those movies take craft. They take skill. They should be made. And when something like that touches as many people as that movie touched. It made over $250 million at the box office in America. That's no slack. It made more money than any of the other films that are nominated this year, except for maybe Dunkirk. And it may have made more than Dunkirk. I'm not sure of the numbers on that. I think it's a fantastic film. I just watched it again the other day just to try to, because I watched it. I actually hadn't seen it except for the one time that I saw it when I reviewed it. And I wanted to watch it again to make sure that I was still right. And I feel even more confident. Get Out is an amazing film. We'll get there in a minute when we talk about Best Picture. But I think his performance is astoundingly great. I think that it's not given the credit it deserves because of where it's at. It's a horror film. And these movies don't normally tend to register on critical minds. But they should, because his work here brings us into the fear that he feels in this weird-ass house. It's really remarkable, and the stuff that he does in this movie is really incredible.
And he's another British actor taking the jobs away from Americans.
He's fine with me. we Americans suck right now, so I'm okay with them taking our jobs. American
actors. A lot of them. The reason why they get the credit that they get is because of the way they look. So they look the part, versus British actors who earn the part. They actually have technique. They have the craft down. Where American actors, it's more of, hey, we need a movie star versus we need an actor. And so, I have no problems with all these British people coming here who've been through Shakespeare and have taken all these acting classes for years, taking these parts that Americans should be able to do, but they don't, because they're just pulled out of television or obscurity or wherever to fill a visual need.
So I don't know how this award's going to play out come the show, because we've got Daniel Day-Lewis. He's our greatest living male actor right now. He just is. He's our greatest living male actor. He's won this award countless times, and he deserves to be nominated for this one because his performance is astounding in this movie. And then you have Gary Oldman for playing Winston Churchill in Darkest Hour. And Gary Oldman's another legacy, right? He's been so many great performances over the years, supporting and lead. He's done so much. He's a chameleon in a lot of aspects in his roles. And definitely The Darkest Hour, because The Darkest Hour is a different movie altogether. A lot of that performance is really well done. A lot of it is makeup. Well, let's not lie. There's good makeup work that's done in that film. And yet, you get this feeling. Backlash in Oscars is always rough around this time of year because then they start talking about different things about these performances. And there are two things that kind of bring Gary Oldman down. The first is that in a time of Me Too and the awareness of social issues, Gary Oldman's a conservative. He has things to say about things. I'll just put it that way. And some of those things may not jive with a lot of what the Academy believes. Although there are older members in the Academy who probably absolutely have no problem with what he says. The second thing is that if you research Winston Churchill, he's a dick.
Well, also, this conservative aspect that you went to, which I don't care if he's a conservative or not, he has a history. Goldman has a personal history that is not pleasant.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
So never mind his political views, just his actions alone, what he's done in the past, if he is not pleasant.
And people are saying, but you should nominate the performance. But people only say that when they agree with it. You know, you should nominate the person, you should nominate the performance. But then they go to another performance and they totally judge them by their character as an actor. And I think that although right now it feels like Gary Oldman's going to win, he might not. Just on that alone, because I have a feeling if he does win, you're going to hear about it. You're definitely going to hear about it. You know, you're going to hear about it from a lot of people, and that's fine because I think those conversations need to happen. And yes, Winston Churchill was a dick.
Yes.
Okay, he may have saved England, quote unquote, saved, but the stuff that he did to get to where he got, the people that he hurt along the way, and he's an incredible racist. He is an awful human being. I mean, many people died in World War II that may not have needed to because of some information that Churchill decided not to reveal to the public. Yes, he rallied the country behind after Dunkirk, but he's an asshole. And you know, a lot of our leaders. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, Franklin Roosevelt was an asshole too in his way. Everybody was an asshole at that time because people were just, you know, they look over things. And I kind of don't want to see an asshole get rewarded with this award. It's funny because
Daniel Day-Lewis plays an asshole.
Yeah, but he's an asshole right up front. You know that right away.
Yeah.
They play Churchill like he's a hero, and in some aspects, yes, he saved England. Yes, that stuff needs to be recognized. People are complicated. But yeah, he did some horrible things. The thing to me that was fascinating to me when I saw Darkest Hour, I saw it with, I think it was his great-grandson, Churchill's great-grandson, who lives in the Houston area. Came in, saw it, and came out, and he says, I don't think he ever met Churchill. He was born after he died. But from what he said, well, this movie really gets it close to what he was like as a person. And I'm thinking, yeah, do you remember that time when your great-grandfather didn't allow certain people to come into the country because he thought that they were savages? You know, remember that stuff? You probably don't remember that, but I didn't talk to him, obviously. But I'm thinking about that kind of stuff, and I'm going, yeah. And Darkest Hour as a whole, I'll get into it now. I don't think that movie deserves to be here. I think it's dull. I think it's what Dunkirk brought to life in a lot of great ways. Darkest Hour kind of puts back to bed. I think there's scenes in the film that are complementary to what Dunkirk does. They're interesting. The scene on the train where basically he says, yeah, Churchill's trying to justify his position, and everybody's going, yeah, do it. Do what you got to do, you know. That's a scene that I think Donald Trump enjoys quite a bit if he saw this movie.
And that it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
That was definitely a Hollywood version of it, and there was also so much of a Hollywood version of it, it threw me out of the movie because it didn't seem to jibe with anything we'd seen from Churchill up until that point.
Right. It doesn't work.
Up until that point, he's an abrasive he's kind of a prickly pear. Let's be nice, because he's not a jerk in this movie, but he's a prickly pear. He's got his own mind. And in that movie, and once you get to that scene, it's like he's a tender grandfather, which we've not seen evidence of any of that earlier.
No, that's exactly right. It doesn't work. It's a Hollywood moment, and that's the moment they'll play at the Oscars, obviously, but it's not accurate. It's just not accurate. So, you know, if it were up to me, Gary Oldman wouldn't be here. Denzel Washington, no offense.
We tossed him already.
He's done better work. I would not have had him here. But to me, the three best performances are Chalamet, Day-Lewis, and Kaluuya. And although I think Gary Oldman will win, by a hair, maybe, though things could change. To me, I would give this award to Daniel Kaluuya. I just would. I love him in Get Out, and I think it's a movie that deserves recognition in any way, shape, or form they can get. And I think he's wonderful in it. And that's not disparaging Daniel Day-Lewis at all, because he's always so great. Everything he does just turns to gold. And he's wonderful in Phantom Thread. The last moments of the film are so great and perfect. It's a movie that really is appropriate for right now, where I think that it's a movie that was definitely, all these issues of women's issues were on Paul Thomas Anderson's mind when he wrote this film. And it plays out so really well, and it's really wonderful. Both of those performances, both the Daniels here and lead actor are great, and either one of them could win. It's fine with me, really.
Well, let's get to what I think is probably the strongest category, and that is lead actress.
There's like about 4 or 5 actresses here that didn't even get nominated that should have, right?
Yeah, and I don't have a complaint with any of these. Not one. We have Sally Hawkins, The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand, 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, Margot Robbie, I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan. I think I even said that right. She's been around so much. Yeah, well, she's been around so much, and she's been nominated so much, and she's done such great work. We've actually learned her name. Good for her. Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, and Meryl Streep for The Post.
And all of them are fantastic. And the people who say Meryl Streep doesn't deserve to be here, that it's just a thing they nominate her every year for, you're full of shit. Her performance in The Post is one of her best, and that's saying something. She's incredible in that movie. I have no problem with her being nominated. I don't care if she's been nominated every year, put up there every year for whatever she's done. She's really great in The Post, and she deserves to be here.
And she's different in everything she does, and that's what I don't think she gets enough credit for, because I have not yet run into the Pacino syndrome with her. She has not found a character that has been lauded so much that she's kind of stuck with it into several movies. She's different in every movie.
Yeah, and she's just great in this. She, the trailers for The Post sell it as something different than what it is. You get the idea when you watch the trailers that Meryl Streep's, she doesn't suffer bullshit, and she doesn't suffer fools gladly. She doesn't play it that way. She plays Katharine Graham as a very fragile person trying to adjust from the death of her husband, trying to navigate through this huge conglomerate business that she owns, the Washington Post, trying to decide whether or not she has the fate of the paper in her hands, and should the truth win out over her paper and these people's employment, and she chooses the truth. And it's a brave choice because she makes it personal. It is not something, where you watch a movie where, well, obviously she's going to choose the truth because the truth is the best. It should win every time. It's a very personal choice for Katharine in this movie, and she risks it for that choice. You see her risks in that movie. There's a really great scene in the movie where Tom Hanks is talking about all this stuff to his wife about Ben Bradley's talking this stuff to his wife about, well, all this stuff has to happen. The truth should win out and all this stuff. And his wife pretty much nails him and says, you don't understand what Katharine has chosen. You don't understand the reason behind her choice. You can say all this lofty stuff if you want to, but her choices are harder because she's a woman and thrown in a position she's never been in before, and she has the responsibility of all these people's jobs, including yours, and her legacy and her family's legacy, and all of that is in this decision, and you need to understand that. And it's a really great scene, and it really nails why The Post is a great film. And I think that's one of those movies this year that isn't giving the respect it's given, that should have. Because it's like, okay, well, it's Spielberg, it's Hanks, it's Streep, it's those movies that just get nominated every year because it feels like it's made for the Oscar. Spielberg didn't make this movie for the Oscar. He made it because he made it in less than 8 months. He made it because Trump was elected, shit's going bad, and Spielberg decided we have to get this film out. The story needs to be told. People need to understand the importance of the press. And there are moments in the film that don't quite work. Anybody who shoots a scene that takes place in Vietnam and puts Creedence Clearwater Revival music on there is just playing to the crowd. That's about as cliche as it gets. But still, I think it's an important film, and it's a great film. And Streep is really, really good in it. And the choices that she makes and the places she takes that character are astounding. She absolutely deserves to be here. And if she wasn't nominated for this part because somebody else had gotten it, I would have been pissed because I think she deserves to be here.
Well, let's talk about risks, because I think Margot Robbie in her career is taking some fantastic risks. She shouldn't have to take these risks. I mean, she's a beautiful actress who's actually pretty talented. She could do all kinds of stuff, and yet she constantly and consistently is looking for something that is really sink her teeth into in an acting-wise situation, not just taking the starlet roles.
So she did this little small role with Tina Fey in a movie called Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And in that movie, I saw an actress that was really trying to break barriers. That she was trying to do something more than just be the pretty girl, right? And when she did that, it's like, well, she's somebody that needs to be paid attention to. And she's really great in The Wolf of Wall Street. She's really good in that movie. But I, Tonya is the movie that kind of is pretty astounding. She deserves to be nominated as well for this. She's really great. The scene where she basically yells at the audience kind of gives me chills. It's like where she turns to the audience and she breaks that fourth wall and she says, "You fuckers are why this is happening. Am I entertaining you? Is this an enjoyment? This is my life. Are you enjoying what the hell that I'm going through? I hope you are. I hope it's wonderful for you." The way she does that is really astounding. And her work in that movie, as always, the truth of what really happened is somewhere in the middle. This movie kind of plays up Tonya Harding as a victim and maybe not be truly accurate. But I don't care, because she was overwhelmed by the events that happened. I truly do believe that. Was she is not as complicit as the movie would like to make you think she is. She may have made bad choices, let's just say. But I think Margot Robbie is compelling in this film. She's really, really strong. It's a really great performance.
I was shocked not to see Sebastian Stan nominated, because I thought he did a really good job.
He was really good, too. It's hard to watch the Winter Soldier do what he does in this movie, though.
Yeah. Let's talk about Saoirse, because I think it's going to be down to Sally Hawkins and Frances McDormand, but I think Saoirse Ronan, again, she's got a harsh, when you listen to her in real life, she's got a harsh Irish accent, and she plays Californian, and I saw this in a Californian audience, and this is really a love letter to Sacramento, is what this movie's about, which, not being from the area, is... This one had a Rushmore feel to me, which is why
it's totally Rushmore to me. It's women's Rushmore, and I'm fine with that because I adore Rushmore. It kind of has a central location, kind of like Rushmore does in Houston. This was in Sacramento. Lady Bird is a fascinating character, and she's just great in it. I mean, she's astounding. I mean, these movies. You were going to say, well, and kind of the backlash that every film gets every year, the backlash that's going on in Lady Bird is like, well, this is a little white girl story. It's like, yeah, and every story deserves to be told. And maybe we've heard these stories over the years more so than others. I understand that, but this is still a story that should be recognized. I think it's a story that's really well done. I think if we're going to talk about women's issues, Lady Bird is a film that definitely deals with that stuff. And I think it's kind of beautiful and sweet and funny. Oh my God. And as I grew up Catholic, so watching them eating communion wafers and talking about sex killed me. I started laughing uncontrollably when I saw that scene. And my wife is looking at me so weird. It's like, why is that funny? And it's like, you don't know what they are doing is awful.
Yeah. They're not. They weren't consecrated. They're just wafers at that point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, have you ever had a communion wafer?
Of course.
Yeah, they taste like shit.
No, I know, but when you've got one girl who's got body image issues, and she's very self-conscious about that, and food is her release, and she's got this really, and that's the only food they can find. They're just eating them like tortillas, little tiny mini little chips. And it's just it's hilarious because I love their rationale. This is not the blood of Christ. It's not the body of Christ because they haven't done anything to them. You have to bless them. You have to go through these are they're just things to eat. They're not very good, but what are you going to do?
It's just Pringles, man. There's Pringles with no flavor.
They are not Pringles. They do not taste anything like Pringles. There's not a drop of salt in them. There's not a drop of taste in them. I don't know why you're right. I don't understand why they're eating them. As far as you think they would just go to the store and buy something that actually had flavor. But yes, as a sacrilegious event, it is hilarious.
Because I brought up Catholic. They're told this is the body of Christ, and then when you eat it, it tastes like nothing. Like, I guess they don't want the body of Christ to taste too good.
if you want to go out on a limb, so they do the same thing in the Mormon Church, except they use water instead of wine, and
Right.
I'm not kidding you, they use Wonder Bread instead of communion wafers. little tiny squares of Wonder Bread.
Come on, y'all don't want us to eat our Lord? I guess not. I don't
They
know.
do. It's just like I said. It's just a substitute. So you can substitute it with anything once you bless it. So
Yeah, our Lord would taste a lot better with cheese and salami.
Yeah.
But, anyway, sorry.
that's all right. All our Catholics.
It's sacrilegious.
Well, let's get on to the two top folks, and I think it's pretty much. I think Frances McDormand is going to win this because she's a sassy. She's got an emotional range in this movie where she's not only she's snarky and interesting, but she's also there's a lot of pain in it.
I think she'll probably win too, and her performance is very strong, and I like her a lot in this movie. And it's timely. I think it's a timely movie too. So I think all that's going for her, and she's probably going to win this award. And I think she's really great in this movie. She's kind of, in my mind, she's kind of suffering from the yeah and syndrome. I mean, she does everything that Frances McDormand's known to do. She's great in this movie. And people they're going to say the same thing about Meryl Streep's performance in The Post, but I think Meryl Streep kind of takes it in a different direction than I didn't expect, and that's why I really love that work. What I got from Frances McDormand in this movie is exactly what I expected to get from Frances McDormand in this movie. So it's one of those performances that's really great. Yeah, I love it. I love that movie. And I feel weird saying that, but that's kind of where I come at it now. She'll win. She'll probably deserve to win in a lot of ways. But I don't. I mean, performance like Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water, where she doesn't speak, and the stuff that she takes, the places that she takes that character, are more interesting to me than what Frances McDormand does, because I fully expect Frances McDormand to be great every time I see her, and she doesn't disappoint. Sally Hawkins' role in this is a really different kind of role, and let's just say it. It's a movie about a woman who falls in love with a fish. Okay,
It's
yes,
not that simple.
It isn't that simple. Just like you're saying, the romance and Call Me by Your Name isn't that simple. None of it is that simple. But yeah, she falls in love with a fish. She's really good at it, though. I mean, she plays it with real compassion. Because she doesn't have any dialogue, she's forced to put all the power in her eyes, and she's got beautiful eyes, and she emotes so well with them, and it's really great. And her performance is really great. I don't know what else to say about the Best Actress. I think that all of these performances are incredible. They all deserve to be here. And to choose one as your favorite does not necessarily disparage the other four.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is a can't lose category where I don't think anybody's going to get too upset if someone else wins. I think Meryl Streep's
Right.
the only one that's going to get backlash if she wins, and that's only because she wins a lot or she's nominated all the time. But let's not forget, she's that good.
Yeah, it would be unfair for people to say that about her work in The Post. Because, I mean, yes, she is nominated for pretty much, she can read a shopping list and get nominated these days. I understand that. But she really is really good in that movie. If I have a favorite performance in here, it's Saoirse Ronan's. That's my favorite one. Because I think Lady Bird, in a lot of ways, is my favorite film that's nominated this year. But if I had to pick, I mean, I think Frances McDormand's going to win it. But if I had a favorite, it's Saoirse Ronan. I cannot say that name. Saoirse. Say it right.
It's Saoirse like it's Saoirse like inertia.
Saoirse Ronan in Lady Bird. She's incredible. She's playing a kid. She's young, and people get punished in these in awards for being young because they think, well, they're going to have awards down the road. But I think you need to reward something that's great when it's great, and she's incredible in this movie. Just that opening scene where she has that conversation with her mother, and it goes from this happy kind of go-lucky conversation to snap. In a snap, it goes to dark places and anger, and then she just rolls on out of the car. It's like that whole sequence is just astounding to me, and this performances are so great. The script is so strong. I love her in that movie.
Well, let's get on to the director, and what we've got there is some surprises because a couple first-timers, not first-time nominees, first-timer directors. We've got Old Standby, Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, but he's never been nominated before for best.
Well, I know, but he's Old Standby. When I get to Get Out, Jordan Peele's first ever movie. That's amazing. His first ever movie nominated. Lady Bird by Greta Gerwig, her first movie nominated. Then we get to Paul Thomas Anderson with Phantom Thread, Old Standby, and Guillermo del Toro. His first, I believe this is his first or second nomination. Did he get nominated for Pan's Labyrinth?
I can't remember where he got. I mean, the film got nominated for best foreign language film that year.
Yeah. So and The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro.
This is the perfect category. Name somebody you would kick out for somebody else. You can't. Not even Spielberg for The Post. Not even Spielberg for The Post. I couldn't kick him out for any of these people. I couldn't kick any of these people out for Spielberg. I just couldn't. This is the perfect category this year. Any single one of these people wins, I'm fine. And I wouldn't be angry at all.
And it's kind of a wide array of films. It's not like oftentimes there's Oscar bait movies and you can tell right away. But a lot of these movies, even Dunkirk, the way he did it, Dunkirk is not what I would call an Oscar bait movie. I think it's a big budget spectacle movie that has a really resonant theme in it. But it's one of these movies you're supposed to go see in IMAX, and that's the only way you're supposed to see it. It's a big, huge. It's what do you call it? It's an immersion into what Dunkirk was about, but it's still a huge spectacle.
Yeah, the thing about Dunkirk to me is that, okay, so Nolan has these quirks as a director in the way he tells stories. He likes to play with time. He focuses on things that normally these films, epic movies of this size, don't focus on. Like, you never see a single German soldier until the end. And then when you see them, it's all in silhouette. You never even see a face. The points that he concentrates on and the way he paces his films previously to Dunkirk have always been really frustrating to me because I never could get a sense of time. Even in Memento, which the whole point of that movie is a sense of time, I could not get a sense of it because while the movie plays in direct opposite chronological order, it actually doesn't make sense in the movie if you take it apart because each scene that happens in the film doesn't necessarily take place right after the scene before it. It's really weird. So the sense of time, the disconnect of time in Memento is kind of a little off-putting. All that stuff comes to fruition in Dunkirk. All the stuff that he uses, these big epic shots in IMAX cameras, these intimate shots where it comes close, the ticking clock of the movie where the movie is constantly propelling forward, the shifting of the timelines, which actually makes sense in the context of the movie because there are moments of increasing intensity as the movie goes on, all connect and work in Dunkirk. I think Dunkirk is Christopher Nolan's finest film as a director. I said that when I came out of it. I saw it 3 times in 2 days. 3 times in about 4 days, actually. I saw it at the press screening. I saw it with you at the 70mm, and then I saw it the next day in IMAX. And all of those experiences, I took away something different. It's an incredible movie. It's one of those movies that I feel like is actually an underdog and not given kind of the respect that it's due this year because there's so many great works that have come out since Dunkirk, and that's the danger of you putting a movie out so early in the year. Other films come along and kind of take away your sunlight.
Well,
but Dunkirk's amazing. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely my wife was going to see it on DVD, and it's like, yeah, you can see it on DVD, but you're going to lose a lot of. And Nolan is constantly harping about this, but he's wrong and he's right. Certain movies need to be seen on the screen. Not every movie needs to be seen on the screen.
So it's fascinating to me to of all the films that were nominated this year, Dunkirk was the movie that they sent out 4K screeners to people. I didn't get one. I wish I had, but he pushes the envelope technically. He makes these movies huge. Dunkirk is a movie I wouldn't mind seeing coming back every couple of years and just to see it in the theater again. It's that kind of a movie. The experience of watching it. And people, the backlash, as every film has a backlash, the backlash of Dunkirk is that it doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty of the battle. It's all about the experience of the battle. It's an experiential movie. Like Darkest Hour talks about the politics behind the battle and everything that was going on at the time. And it's interesting in that regard, but it's not a great movie. It's really dry. Dunkirk puts you in war, puts you in this situation where these people are desperate. They don't think they're going to get out. Nobody had any idea what was going to happen next. At the time, Britain literally thought it was going to lose its entire army, and it was to be wide open for the Germans in World War II. If they didn't get those men off that beach to protect the homeland, they were truly and righteously fucked. And the desperation in the battle scenes, the desperation of the soldiers and just trying to survive, the desperation of the pilots and trying to get those people out of there, the shipboat captains trying to rescue everyone, all of it, and all of it coming together as this great heroic moment in the war for England. It's an incredibly great movie. I think it's really worth nominating and worth being here. And I've watched it at home, and you're right. I mean, even I have a big TV now. I really love my TV, and I have this on 4K, and watching it and how the aspect ratios change and the IMAX size into the screen size, and it's a really good film at home. But in the theater, there's nothing like it this year that compares. It's a theatrical experience through and through. And for that alone, I think it deserves recognition. It's not going to win Best Picture, probably, although it's kind of might. People are kind of talking about it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard it a lot along lines like, because it gets a lot of the old school Academy members who are saying, well, this is a movie that brings people to movie theaters, which is what we want, and that makes sense. But as a directorial kind of juggling all that stuff and making it emotionally powerful and strong and scary and one of those adventure films that you see that just astounds you, makes you want to make movies. Christopher Nolan is a class act, and I think that his direction it deserves to be nominated completely.
Well, then we get to the two newcomers. Jordan Peele, not something that I would have expected from Jordan Peele, not because all I know him from is from his comedy.
Yeah, but his comedy has always had that edge to it, obviously, where it's like, yes, this is funny, haha, we can laugh at this now, but think about it for a minute, and it's not funny at all. And he brings all of that to Get Out. And I remember when I first heard about Get Out, because it was still right in the middle of Key and Peele being on television, and he said, once Key and Peele is done, I'm going to make this movie. It's going to be a horror film, and I'm going to play in genre and talk about race issues in genre. And I thought, well, that's great, because genre is the best place for this stuff. You can make a drama all you want about race events and historical events now, present day, or in the past, but I don't think they register in the same level as a genre film, because a genre film brings everybody into the theater. Everybody wants to see a scary movie or a fun movie, and so seeing historical films or seeing dry dramas on the subject, that don't pack them in. Horror films pack them in, and horror films have an interesting way of doing that, because horror movies normally tend to die on the vine in about 2 or 3 weeks after release. They're just gone. Everybody runs out to see them for that opening weekend, and then nobody talks about them anymore. And that's a really intelligent way to talk about race, because when you do that, when you have a shit ton of people going opening weekend to see a horror film, and then they're given something even deeper and more resonant than they thought they were going to get, and they go back out and they talk to people and say, you need to see this movie. It's not just fun and scary, but it's got things to say. And I think a lot of the word of mouth is how Get Out became as successful as it was.
Oh,
people
absolutely.
Came out of it saying, it's a movie that you need to see in the theater, and it's really fun and scary, and it's also smart, and has it talks about something that we don't get to see in movies. It's just not fair, and I think Get Out is an incredible film. I think the direction is really great. The ticking clock aspect of this movie is intense. Daniel Kaluuya gives this performance that, he's basically the final girl in a lot of these horror films. He's the victim, but he doesn't let himself be a victim. And everything he does in the movie at the last 30 minutes, you're going, fuck yeah, kill that white guy,
And I feel bad for Stephen Root, because I love Stephen Root. He's really talented, but he plays a lot of Southern racists.
He does. He plays a lot of Southern racists, and he plays a lot of blind people, too, I've noticed.
He does. I think he's really good at it.
Yeah, I don't think that's his first time he played blind guy in...
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou, didn't he?
Yeah. It's like the DJ from Brother Where Art Thou. It's probably his grandson or something. It's really good.
I hope they're in the same universe. I hope that is true.
That would be pretty great. It's a hell of a movie and a hell of a debut as a filmmaker. It's so confident. Every scene makes sense. Every scene is funny and on point and well acted, well directed, well paced. It's on point. As a first film, you don't get better than that. This guy paid attention when he was on set watching other directors work, and he has such a huge ideas and scope Get Out is incredible. As far as first films go, it's one of the very, very best. I don't know any more first films that are as confidently directed and as well done as Get Out.
He kind of put it up against himself. He's going to have a tough time with that second film because the expectations are going to be through the roof.
Yeah, he will have a tough time of it, but I think he'll bring it. I think this guy is here to stay. I mean, even Steven Spielberg's first cinematic film, which was Sugarland Express, doesn't come nearly as confident off as this one does, and it's incredible. It's really great. And speaking of first directors, you get a really an actress who has worked with Noah Baumbach for many years, and then she makes this movie, Lady Bird, which is just as confidently directed. It's a smaller film than Get Out, I think, and more intimate, but it's a movie that's very, very strong, very, very truthful. I think it comes from a place of truth and heart, and I think Greta Gerwig has lived this movie in a lot of ways in her life. And Lady Bird, I'll just say it, Lady Bird is my favorite film of the year. It was my number one this year. I related to that movie on levels that didn't relate to any of the other films this year. I'm not saying it's the best movie, but it's my favorite movie. And it's a movie that I've seen like 4 times now. I've watched it because I got the screener at home, and now it's coming on Blu-ray in about a week or two. If it hasn't out, it might be out already. I'm not even sure.
No, it's not, because I know which movies are out because I've been trying to make sure that I see everything, and I was like, when does this come out? And they didn't even have it on the schedule, and so it is still in theaters.
Yeah, but it's so good. It's so good. Every moment of it, I cherish this movie a ton. I know that. I mean, I'm obviously not a 17-year-old girl, but I know that life. I know of that. You know, I mean,
you have a 17-year-old girl, or you've had one.
Yeah, I do. She's older now. She's 19 now, but I know that life. And you know, one of the again, we'll talk about backlashes. One of the backlashes of Lady Bird is that people were saying, well, they're not really poor. They live in a house. You know, a lot of people don't even have houses. She has a fairly privileged lifestyle. Yes, but people's lives, you can't just judge them on a checklist of figuring out, well, they have this because I didn't have that, and you know that's not fair. Her struggles are just as legitimate as anybody else's struggles. Maybe she has it a little easier than other people. Of course, well, somebody has it easier than somebody else. If somebody has it harder than somebody else, that's just the nature of things. Living in America.
Yeah, but they're also facing a lot of things that people fear. You've got a mother who works her tail off because she has to because her husband lost her job, and that is a real fear in a real situation that can cause a lot of problems for a lot of people.
Right. And, you know, and they don't even know if they can afford it. If she gets into college, can they afford to pay for it? I mean, she has to work close to home, and she doesn't want to do that. She wants to have that experience of being away from home, which I cherish for her. I think that she deserves to have that experience, because I don't think until you leave, and I've never left Houston hardly at all. I always regretted that. I always wish I had left this city for a while just to see what it was like in other places. And, you know, she wants that experience. She wants to know life outside of her town and life outside of her family for a little while. It doesn't mean she doesn't love her family any less. It means that she wants to grow as a person in ways that she feels that she's stuck not being able to do so at home. And that's a legitimate want. I think that's something that everybody kind of wants. And just because it's not somebody else's experience doesn't mean that their experience is any less. I don't think that it's fair to judge a movie that way. And I think it's a fantastic film. It's funny as all get out. Everything that Saoirse Ronan says in this movie. The scene where she's making out with that guy and she goes to that bedroom of her friend's house and she totally does have a tanning bed. I love that moment. I love the little joys that she takes in her life that she finds. She's just a funny person, a fascinating person. In that world, anybody who gets to know Lady Bird in life should consider themselves lucky, because she's so winning and she doesn't have all of her shit together, but nobody does. I think it's a great movie.
Well, let's get to what I think are probably the two front runners, though I think there's one true front runner. I think Guillermo del Toro is got a solid lead on this particular one. But Phantom Thread is another fantastic work by Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm not a big fan of Inherent Vice, but I can still see the quality and in the direction of it. I think that was his one hiccup as far as I'm concerned, but every time he does something, it is not what you expect. It's unbelievably well done, and I think he takes everything he does up a level because this could have been another struggling genius movie that we've seen in the past where you get irritated with the main character who's not necessarily a great person, who doesn't have many redeeming qualities, and they make it very Hollywood, where here this genius doesn't have very many redeeming qualities, and there is no real arc for him because the movie is really not about him. It's about him taking over. I can't remember the lady's name. His muse. Mm-hmm. I think that's her. This movie's about her, not about him.
So you get these movies of these staggering geniuses, and the movies rarely call their geniuses on their bullshit. This movie calls him on this bullshit. And that performance by Vicky Crepe is
I want to say Crepe because I can't believe it's Creeps.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know.
Because crepes are something tasty and fun, and you want to have them for breakfast, and you look forward to them. Creeps, no one wants to be in a family of creeps.
She's really good in this movie, though. And the way that she acts and interacts with him and Lesley Manville is great to watch. Where, yes, he's this genius. He's unassailable genius. And then she says, in a second, she's like, if I feed you bad mushrooms, you're going to be shitting just like the rest of us. This is the high class version of that prank scene in Dumb and Dumber, with what's his name on the toilet all the time.
It's just that the way that Daniel Day-Lewis reacts to that is what threw me.
Yeah, I think that he likes being coddled and taken care of, and for him to get to that place, he has to pay for it. He can't just take her as something to be thrown away. She is not disposable. I mean, she tells him flat out, "You tread carefully with me. You be careful because things are going to happen if you don't." And she does it. And so this is a movie about a guy who, when he's not knitting and he's not being nice to his wife, is in constant fear of shitting his pants. I'm okay with that. I think it's the classiest movie about diarrhea ever made.
They should have called it The Phantom Turd.
Yeah, it's the Phantom Vomit. I don't know. I love this movie. I keep thinking. I've only seen it the once, but I keep thinking about it more and more as time goes on. I think it's incredibly funny. I don't think it's given enough credit for the humor that's in it, and it's a humor that is not obvious at first because it's played so hoity-toity, right? But that's intentional. And people thinking they were coming into seeing There Will Be Blood 2 didn't get that. That's not what this movie is. And I love that Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Thomas Anderson made this film together, deciding we're not going to do Daniel Plainview again. We're going to show it from the other way. Or this guy is just as much of a turd as Daniel Plainview is. Although I wouldn't imagine that Woodcock would actually kill somebody.
No, but Lesley Manville would.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah. He'd never know about it. I don't think she'd ever tell him, but she would totally kill somebody.
I think even if he found out, I think he would accept it and move on. I think it's one of those things that he just file away quickly.
Yeah. Some people are actually kind of calling this a minor to Paul Thomas Anderson work, which I totally do not agree with. If I wasn't calling anything a minor work, it would probably be Inherent Vice, which I like a lot, but it's definitely not for everyone. This movie, if you come at it at a level keel, I think you will appreciate everything it has to say. And it's in a world of Me Too and everybody learning to have that voice and being able to speak up, this movie plays really well. I love that about it because it sneaks you in there where you're going to see, another movie about an unassailable genius and his difficult life and how hard it is for him to be as smart as he is and the people he has to suffer to get there. And those people aren't going to take that shit. And everything that happens to him, he deserves. he does. It's a great film. It's a great movie.
Well, let's talk about
incredible too. I love that score. Johnny Greenwood's really discordant melodies at play. This classical Mozart on its edge kind of thing is really cool. That movie is just really, really great.
Well, let's talk about the weirdest romantic movie of the year, The Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Guillermo's got a lot of push on this. I think it is a well done. It's a beautiful movie.
I like Shape of Water a lot. I do like it a lot. I don't love it.
Well,
I don't love it. I love Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, but let's get on to the directing part because I think a lot of it has to do with the story, has to do with some of the things. I think directorial wise, I think he did a really good job. The pacing's really good, it doesn't bog down too often, and if it does, it's just for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It's really frustrating to me because of all the nominees this year, I really, really like Shape of Water. I don't love it like a lot of the other films. I think it's absolutely deserving of being Best Picture. I mean, if I had to choose between Shape of Water and Darkest Hour to drop out, it would be Darkest Hour in a heartbeat. But I don't know. Maybe it is a story that I didn't connect with as much. But I mean, that if you're saying it's a story about a woman, and as a guy I can't connect with it, I can't really agree with that so much because I love Crimson Peak, and that's a story about a woman, or Pan's Labyrinth was a story about a little girl. I love those movies to death. I don't know what it is about this one that causes me such disconnect. Maybe it's because the creature doesn't talk, but then again, that's the equal thing to Sally Hawkins' character because she doesn't speak either, and she's finding somebody she can approach with an equal level. This is a film that I've only seen the once, so if I see it again, and I'm probably going to buy it because it's Guillermo del Toro, and I own everything he has. But if I see it again, maybe it'll connect with me more, and maybe on second viewing it may connect more.
I think that's strange because I think of all his movies, this is the most relatable that he's done for the general audience, which is why it's taken off as much as it has.
It may be so. I would say that Pacific Rim is definitely more of a general audience movie, although that didn't do it as well.
No, I think that is a niche. You got to love robots and kaiju, is that what they are? And that's a specific audience.
Robots and giant monsters, though.
I understand that, but that's the audience that's going to go see that. You're not going to get my parents to go see Pacific Rim. You will get my parents to go see The Shape of Water. In fact, coming out of Shape of Water, this is how I know it was connecting with audiences. We walked out of Shape of Water, and there were 3 70-year-old ladies talking about how much they loved the movie as they walked out of it. You wouldn't see that in Pacific Rim. You're not going to see that necessarily in Pan's Labyrinth. I think while it may not have the scope and the spectacle, and it may not have the resonance of other movies, as far as general audiences are concerned, I think this one does speak more to the masses versus the other ones. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I'm trying to figure out why I didn't connect with it then. I don't know why. I think that, like Michael Shannon's character, I hated him every moment he was on screen. And the character that I loved the most was Richard Jenkins. I would have watched the whole movie about that guy just trying to talk to the guy, the pie salesman. You know, I don't know what it is about that movie that I didn't connect with. It's a lot of little things that just did not add up to the place where I would love it as much as I expected to love that movie. But I mean, I'm not taking it away from anybody who does love it. I think that a lot of people find out on a personal level it'll hit them. It just didn't hit me there. Yeah, I just was finding it was odd because I think it has hit the general audiences more than yourself. Maybe so. And I have absolutely no problem with Guillermo del Toro being nominated for Best Director. He should have been nominated movies ago. He wins. No problem at all. I love his films. I love everything he's done from Kronos on up. If you're actually going to ask me to rank all of his movies, this would actually probably be at the bottom. But it's not because it's bad. It's just because I like pretty much everything else he's done before more. Oddly enough, that's weird. Even a movie like Blade 2, I kind of like more on a different level than I do The Shape of Water. And Blade 2 is a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking shit about it, but I don't really want to because I do like it a lot. It's a movie that I'm going to buy. I will watch it again. And if I watch it again, maybe it'll really ring my bell. I don't know. But we can agree that he's probably going to win, but who do you think should win? That's a tough one in this one. That's a tough one because, like I said, any of these single people win, and I will cheer to the rafters because I have no problem with it. But I'll have to probably go with my favorite movie of this list, which would be Lady Bird. And if Greta Gerwig won, I'd be totally cool with that. I think that the directorial work that she did in Lady Bird, getting those actors together and telling that story, and it's a tiny little story, but it feels a lot bigger than the movie that it is in. And it's intimate, but it's just really sweet and a story well told. The script is amazing, and the acting is amazing. The one I kind of want the most out of all these directors that I want to win would be Greta Gerwig. If Jordan Peele won, I'd be screaming. If Christopher Nolan won, of all of these directors, that probably the one of the least amount of want that I want to win this one because I think of all the films that are listed here, I think Dunkirk is like 4 and 9.99 stars in comparison to the 5 stars of everything else is here.
But it's still a tremendous film, and I have no problem if he won. This is like the perfect category. I haven't seen a category in the Oscars in a long time where you tell me who you would take out of there. I wouldn't take anybody out of there.
Well, let's move on to Best Picture. And despite the fact that there's 9 nominees, we've actually talked about every single one of them, which is unusual, because normally we'd be talking about 6 out of the 9 and we'd have to explain them. So we got Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. We've talked about every single one of these already, which is great, because I hate seeing a Best Picture nominee that didn't get anything else. Because it doesn't make sense, because why is it so great if there's not great actors in it, or there's a great outstanding performance, or at least the director? If the director's not nominated, that's crazy. And
yeah, but there is one movie out of this list that I'd boot out in a heartbeat and replace it with something else.
Well, I know you'd get rid of Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour easily. I'd kick it out, kick it to the curb, and I would either probably replace it with either Phantom Thread or I, Tonya.
Phantom Thread is in there. So
I'm sorry, not Phantom Thread. Excuse me. The Florida Project.
The Florida Project or I, Tonya.
Yeah. Florida Project or I, Tonya. And if I was leaning toward one or the other, it would probably be the Florida Project, because I think that movie's incredible. I watched it again, and yes, it's not an easy watch. There are characters that you absolutely don't love in it, for sure. The mother of that little girl is the worst human being on the planet. But at the same time, you know how she got there. You know how she got there. And there's such empathy in that movie that I think the Florida Project is an incredible work. Sean Baker is a really great director. His previous movie, Tangerine, got talked about but didn't get nominated for things. I don't think it got nominated that year, but it's a really great movie. That was all shot on an iPhone. This movie is a little bigger in scale, but it's incredible. It's so beautifully well done and so well acted, and he gets a performance out of that little girl that is stunning. It's really great. If I was going to kick any of these movies out, it would be Darkest Hour, and I would replace it with the Florida Project, pretty much for sure. Okay,
so all we need now is, who do you think should win, and who do you think will win?
I have a tie for should win, and I can't make it in my mind any better than this. I can't come to one or the other, and I think you know what the tie is going to be. It's going to be Get Out and Lady Bird. I don't know which one should win in my mind. If either one of those won, I'd be over the top happy. I think the statement of Get Out winning would be more important than the statement of Lady Bird winning. Not just because of the racial issues that Get Out, but just because it's a horror film, and it's a horror film by Blumhouse. And if you know anything about Blumhouse, they make horror films kind of on the cheap. I'm not, and when I say on the cheap, I'm not saying they're cheaply produced. I'm saying that they don't spend a lot of money on making their films, but they rack up incredible profits for what they do, and they let filmmakers play. They let filmmakers do all sorts of stuff. I mean, Blumhouse has made movies from such directors as M. Night Shyamalan and Barry Levinson. Okay. They let these directors play in genre in ways that I don't think they do it in an interesting way. They said you only have so much money to spend, but you can make whatever the fuck you want, and then they do it, and that I think is really great. I think it's something that should be rewarded. So and obviously the racial issues in Get Out are important to talk about as well. But the idea behind Blumhouse and the philosophy behind the filmmaking that they do there is really cool, and I would like that to be celebrated as well. So if I had a movie that I think should win over the other, it would be Get Out by inches, because Lady Bird is my favorite movie of the year. Lady Bird is a joy from start to finish. I love that movie unreservedly. As a guy who is a huge fan of Rushmore, I love that this is basically Rushmore for women. And in a lot of ways, it might even be better in Rushmore. I connect with Rushmore a lot more on a personal level, but I connected with Lady Bird a hell of a lot. And it's just a really wonderful movie. It's my favorite of the year, really.
So who will win?
That's tough. I think right now Get Out might have the momentum. Right now, I think it's kind of a weird three-way tie between Get Out, between Dunkirk, because Dunkirk is getting momentum in a little ways. I think a lot of the old guard Academy members are talking about Dunkirk. And then 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which has all those great issues that everybody's talking about. But I don't think 3 Billboards has as good a shot anymore. I think that the momentum is firmly behind Get Out to win this year. Maybe The Shape of Water, but I think that this is one of those. I mean, I can say with like 90% certainty that Best Picture and Best Director are going to split. They're not going to be the same. I just feel that, because the directors are so strong. All 5 of them are so strong, and the nominees for Best Picture are so strong that I think that's going to split the vote. And maybe it should. Maybe the director should be rewarded with one award, and the film should be awarded differently. Again, this is one of those things where you're talking about quantifying art and how you're ranking art and what's better and what's best. And the idea of best anything is kind of irritating. But if I'm going to lay my money down and I'll take the risk of losing those chips, I would bet that Get Out wins.
And I'm thinking I'm going to go with Shape of Water. I think it's the one movie that doesn't have a lot of outside baggage. You know, like 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri has some baggage to it because of the way Sam Rockwell's character is redeemed. I think
it doesn't exactly.
I think a lot of people are upset that the one character that really shouldn't be able to get redeemed is.
Yeah, but that's all a point of view thing. Not necessarily.
No, I understand that.
Sure, it does.
Well, that's I totally understand it's a point of view, and that's what I'm saying. I think the point of view of most voters. I think a lot of the pushback on this particular with Sam Rockwell, especially with him winning more, I start seeing a lot more people going, well, not that he didn't do a good job, it's that his character has an arc that they don't like.
Yeah, it's baby. Like I said, it's a baby steps take that this really horrible man takes, and even at the end of the movie, we're not quite sure if those baby steps are in the right way or in the right direction. But I do think it has issues with race that aren't as easily defined and not easy to talk about. And you got to understand the man who wrote it, Martin McDonagh. He's an Irish director. 3 Billboards is loosely actually based on a real thing.
Very loosely.
The city of Vidor had a situation like that. I think those billboards are still up there. I'm not even sure. But it's a movie, and of all the movies, I think that 3 Billboards may be the one we talked about the least. It's a movie that has problems, but I think as a whole, I think it's really good. And it's possible it could win, but I'm thinking the momentum has shifted now. And like I said, I think the momentum has shifted towards Get Out. I think because it's playing on cable right now. It did that free movie thing last week. A lot of people are looking at Black Panther, which feels timed. I mean, it came out for Black History Month, but it also feels timed to make us more aware of the ideas of Get Out. And I think that it's on a lot of people's minds right now. And because of that, I think Get Out has a good chance of winning.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on. As always, every year we got a couple going on. I certainly appreciate it. I want to remind people that you can find Alan at comingsoon.net, and you can find him on Twitter under the name NordlingCS. Is it the Nordling or NordlingCS?
NordlingCS.
Yep. And of course, you can always find him every week at Matinee Heroes.
And if you want to read my reviews of some of these Best Picture nominees, I did review Dunkirk, I did review Get Out, I did review The Post. I don't think I reviewed any of the rest of them on here. I may have reviewed 3 Billboards. I can't remember because no, I don't think I did. Sometimes I get to review some of them, sometimes I don't. You're assigned certain movies, and go to comingsoon.net and look up Alan Cerny, and I will post links on the page when you go to the realitycheckpodcast.com. You'll be able to click on his reviews, and also I will put up my scorecard, as I do every year, about who I think is going to win, because I'm trying to win. I guess they're giving away trips to the premiere of Avengers Infinity Wars. Yeah. The thing about those contests every year, I know I can't. I know I'd never win those, because first off, the little stuff I
get 50%.
Yeah. But secondly, I always let my personal ideas of what I think should win get in the way of what will win. And I think that happens every time. So, and then I decide, well, I'm just going to go the way I want it to be. And that's not the way it goes. It just didn't happen that way.
I think I have John Williams winning for Last Jedi score, and that's only because I love the Maestro so much.
And it is a really good score. Although, I think Johnny Greenwood's Phantom Thread score is amazing.
Well, don't forget, matineeheroes.com, at Matinee Heroes. We'd love to hear you. Every week we talk about something, a new movie each week. Thanks to Alan. I appreciate it. That's the show. Thanks to Alan for coming on, as always. And if you have any comments, questions, or guest suggestions, please email Craig at speakercraigprice.com, or you can follow the show at RealityCheckPod on Twitter. See you next time.